arguably difficult addiction to overcome, the individual would need to have all the necessary tools available to help in the quest to overcome this addiction successfully and permanently. Get all the info you need here. Being an arguably difficult addiction to overcome, the individual would need to have all the necessary tools available to help in the quest to overcome this addiction successfully and permanently. One should understand the connection between the brain and the body and the way it clings onto the addiction, as it will help to further strengthen the resolve to beat the addiction. It is without a doubt that a person will not be able to quit smoking overnight, but there are some ways to either try cutting down with the eventual goal of quitting in mind, or to simply choose options that are the lesser of two evils. Some experts would recommend starting with switching to non-commercial brand cigarettes, as these do not contain additives that the regular commercial ones are touted to contain. These chemicals could run into combinations of as much as 4,000 different chemicals. Another element to be aware of when it comes to the habit of smoking would be the reason it has become rather habitual. Looking into the trigger point that causes the individual to seek out a cigarette may eventually help the individual to control the situation and eliminate the trigger point, which will eventually decrease the need to turn to a cigarette for relief. Peer pressure could also be a very significant contributor to the idea of smoking, in turn making it rather hard to beat. Making the effort to consciously avoid situations where smoking is acceptable and even expected would be a good start. There are several different ways that can be tried in the quest to stop smoking and in turn stop the nicotine dependency. These would include several different ways that one should explore where there is a platform that allow the individual to seek suitable replacements for the nicotine habit. The following are some tried and true methods that are often recommended for nicotine replacement exercises. Nicotine gum. This is a type of over-the-counter remedy that is the most popular choice for first-time attempts to beat the nicotine dependency. It is usually available at any local pharmacy and does not need a doctor's prescription. The gum, when chewed, will allow the nicotine to be absorbed into the body without the individual having to resort to the act of smoking. However, this method should only be used for a period of not more than 6 months. Nicotine patch is another type of medication that can be applied to the skin each day with the intention of curbing the need to light up a cigarette for the nicotine fix. The milder brands do not require a doctor's prescription, while the more potent one would certainly require some medical recommendation and sometimes even intervention. Bupropion hydrochloride. These are pills that do not actually contain any nicotine but are used to combat the nicotine cravings. It is usually used with the direction of a medical professional who in turn monitors the progress of the individual choosing this method of nicotine replacement. Using NRT is also another option to explore in the quest to find a suitable nicotine replacement. The nicotine medication contains such negligible amounts of the negative substance that it very rarely eventually becomes an addiction, thus effectively allowing the individual another alternative until the nicotine craving is no longer evident. Some people have successfully chosen to use self-hypnosis as a way to overcome the nicotine addiction. However, it should be noted that nicotine replacement therapy does not necessarily work for everyone, but it does have a rather impressive track record. Self-hypnosis is widely recognized as an effective way of helping addicts to stop smoking. Using hypnosis. The action of self-hypnosis is actually the act of allowing the mind to focus on the activity of smoking. The mind will go into a state where the hypnotic platform established will be influenced by the incoming stimuli, which is kept consistent. The mind will have to readjust the current thought process that accepts smoking as normal and a seemingly uneventful and natural act to another mindset that encourages the thought of revulsion and total disinterest in such as activity. The hypnotic influence the self-hypnosis would have to create would be that there is no longer a need to be influenced and directed to smoke every time the urge to do so takes over the person's thought process. The daily elements the mind is fed with in terms of the acceptability of the smoking addiction can be expanded and contracted within the boundaries of the mind until they change the thought process either for better or worse. Thus there is every possibility of creating a positive influence which will extend to the mind rejecting the need to smoke or have the nicotine addiction as part of the daily life cycle of the individual. There are a lot of self-hypnosis methods and books available for the individual to explore, but the main idea would be to ensure the hypnosis is to be the focus of firmly changing the behavior into a more positive one. Wrapping up. It is becoming very difficult for smokers to operate publicly. There is a stigma regarding smokers and it is catching on with the public. Many smokers are now ostracized from gatherings and invitations. Only close friends and families condone smokers in their presence. Besides that, it is just bad for you. So quit today.